Hello everyone, this is Mini Joda here and welcome back to another episode of my Supernatural blog. For those who haven't been here before, I would like to welcome you. I hope you enjoy your stay. Usually what I do is that every week I post a blog on Supernatural, and what I do is that I talk about the different species that inhabit the world. So for example, I've already done a couple of blogs on angels and demons, and I also talked a little bit about the different creatures that are in there. I hope you enjoy those. If you haven't, please go back and watch those. I have those available on my channel. Link below if you want to check them out. And I think without further ado, let's get started. I've been having somewhat of a difficult time finding, the right schedule for me. It's something that I've recently gotten into. Of course, YouTube is still fairly new to me. So it's something that I've been trying to do, and I still can't figure out what the right way to do this is. So that's why I've been kind of posting my videos a little bit late. I apologize for that. I know I've said that before, but it's just something, like I said, it's something that I really want to do. It's just information that I really want you guys to have. And I just want to be informative. That's kind of my goal here. I want to share my passion with Supernatural with others, so I hope you guys enjoy. Now, there's a particular race that was introduced into the show fairly recently, as early as Season 7. We're going into Season 9 right now, so I'm thinking this video is going to be a little bit short, but I'll try to cover as much as I can without, of course, spoiling anything. And let me take that opportunity as well to also release my usual disclaimer. My videos, the blogs that I do on Supernatural, they're all spoiler-free, or at least up to this point. I am providing information on all the species that the Supernatural world has, but I'm trying to stay as spoiler-free as possible. I know that that's somewhat complicated to do only because I am revealing information from very recent seasons. But just so you know, if you happen to watch this and you have not watched the series, you can always, watch this. You will not get spoiled, and then go back and watch the series and maybe get a little bit more understanding as to what the show's about and to what the species are, like, what their powers are, weaknesses, how they came to be, things like that, So we know that in the beginning we have, of course, the world of humans, planet Earth. We also have a location called Heaven, which is where the angels reside, also a location called Hell, where the demons reside. I've also briefly talked about Purgatory before. It's a place where creatures go after they die, where their souls go. I mentioned before that the soul of a monster, for example, a vampire or a shapeshifter, is not the same as a human soul. So what happens is that upon their death, their soul is sent to a different location, which is neither hell nor heaven. It would be Purgatory. Now, Purgatory is a supernatural dimension that was created by God in order to contain the oldest creatures that He created. Those are the ones that are known as the most dangerous. They're called the Leviathans. In the hopes that they would not destroy the rest of their creation, He was afraid that that might happen. So over time, this Purgatory location became the destination of all the souls of the supernatural creatures where they go after they die. Now, its physical location is known to be separate from both heaven and hell, but it is known to be closely tied to hell, so there is somewhat of a passageway that you can use to get from Purgatory into hell and vice versa. So we have that in the beginning God created his first beasts, the Leviathans, and He was afraid that they could threaten the survival of all of His other creations. So in that situation, He decided to create Purgatory as a prison to isolate them. So we know that in Purgatory, the Leviathans were kept to themselves and away from all of God's other, I guess I would call them children, in order to isolate them from them. Sometime after, Purgatory began to reside a creature that I mentioned briefly before, known as the Mother of All. We don't know how this creature came to be, or if she really originated in Purgatory, but we do know that she currently resides there. She takes control over all of the souls that reside in Purgatory, and it has been implied that she's related to the Leviathans in some way, although we don't know how specifically. We don't know if she's a Leviathan herself, or whether she just came from them. We don't know. We just know that there's, of her existence. Just to recap briefly, we know that the Mother of All at some point gave birth to her firstborns that are known as the alphas of each individual species, and as such, all of the creatures, all of the monsters that inhabit the world of humans were created from Eve and the alphas that came from her. Eventually, she and her progeny became associated with Purgatory, and that's kind of how all the souls of creatures that were dead started heading on to Purgatory. All those that died in the mortal realm were headed into Purgatory upon their demise. Once the souls of monsters arrive there, we know that in Purgatory these souls are fated to kind of become prey of one another, fight with each other for all eternity. It's kind of like their torment in that kind of place. We don't really know at this point, it's currently unknown, what happens to the souls of monsters if they die while in Purgatory. It's kind of assumed that they just simply rematerialize after some time, although we have never seen that happen, so we're not sure. So it basically kind of makes it a perpetual cycle of souls fighting with each other. They kill each other, and then they just kind of reshape themselves only to continue the cycle all over and over and over, you know, until the end of time. We also don't know how the hierarchy of Purgatory is structured, or if there even is one, other than the Mother of All. Like I said, she takes dominion over all of the souls in there, but we don't know what kind of, I guess, smaller hierarchy resides in there. If it is present, it seems to be fairly, you know, fluid, not as strictly structured as that on Heaven. And the monsters in Purgatory seem to be largely just running away from each other as opposed to just kind of controlling themselves. So they haven't really been shown to be organized as a tight group or a pack, kind of like they do on Earth. The only exception, of course, would be the Leviathans, which is what I'm going to talk about after. So let's go a little bit over the race of the Leviathans. So as I mentioned, the Leviathans were introduced into the series fairly recently, you know, a couple of years ago. The Leviathans are also known as the Old Ones, and they predate the creation of humans and angels as well as the soul itself. Because Leviathans predate the creation of souls, we know that, of course, they predate any creature that has a soul. In this case, I'm talking about, of course, any monsters that reside in the human world, and as well as humans. So they are therefore considered to be the very first creations of God. There are several characteristics that describe Leviathans. For example, we know that they are known as being immensely powerful. They are known to be hungry, to be very clever in the way of thinking, and also to be very destructive. Before God went on to create more creatures, like, you know, more of his, like, for example, moving on to creating angels, he felt that Leviathans, of course, threatened to consume everything, and he created Purgatory afterwards, sealing Leviathans within that environment in order to contain their insatiable hunger. As of the most recent season, some Leviathans have already escaped Purgatory and reside in the human world now. We don't know how many have escaped, but we do know they operate within a tight hierarchy led by a single Leviathan who acts as their overall leader. Their way of operation is to take on the form of humans who have valuable skills and kind of infiltrate within the human society. Those that are, you know, in positions that may put them into, you know, usefulness, or also those that have positions of power include, for example, the military or leaders of certain corporations. Leviathans also tend to be very cannibalistic, so they do punish each other by eating other Leviathans for their failures. In general, Leviathans regard humans as very little. They're basically seen as nothing more than cattle or food to them. They do, however, have some respect for certain individuals within the human world that they claim to possess a certain spark or something that makes them unique that the Leviathans are unable to replicate, even if they shapeshift into them. So they do tend to keep those humans alive to use those special skills, like, you know, like that spark that they say they have. Leviathans also consider demons and other creatures to be even lower, beneath humans. So ultimately they do intend to try to wipe all demons and all creatures from Earth and only leave humans there, so that ultimately they serve as their ultimate food source. So basically their plan is to turn humanity into the perfect never-ending food source, as well as, of course, eliminate all monsters and demons that feed on humans, so that, of course, that food supply is reserved only for them, for the Leviathans. So let's move on to a little bit of the characteristics, what defines them, and what their power and abilities are. So we know that Leviathans are able to possess any human they come into contact with. Basically, they take, in the human realm, they take fluid form. It takes the form of somewhat of a black goo, and they can infect water supplies in order to infect humans upon them drinking that water supply. So what happens is that the person becomes infected with a Leviathan, and the Leviathan becomes the physical embodiment of that person. So these I guess I would call them shells. They do bleed. It's a black ectoplasmic blood when they are injured and they're possessed by a Leviathan. So basically, and they can also express their own physical appearance by reshaping their jaws to display like long teeth with a two-pronged tongue, kind of like a snake. Sometimes they react like that when, for example, they get very agitated or when they're trying to eat another being, like whether it be a human or another Leviathan. I also talked briefly about this, about how they're able to shapeshift into any human. Not only are they able to possess a vessel, but they're also able to transform into, reshape into any other human that they touch. They just require a fragment of that person's DNA in order to transform into that particular person, even if it's just like a strand of hair. That allows them to reshape their current vessel into any other human that they come into contact with. They are also able to absorb the memories of anyone whose form they take, like, their memories, their thoughts, their feelings, everything. Similar to how a shapeshifter works, the only difference is that they do not require that particular human to be alive, like shapeshifters do. They can just kill it, take their physical appearance, and take all of their memories, thoughts, and feelings along with it. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, there are certain humans that are considered to have that certain spark, like, that certain unique trait that a Leviathan is unable to replicate. So in that situation, they cannot emulate that particular human. They just keep it alive to do their bidding. Also, we know Leviathans possess super strength. They are known to possess greatly enhanced physical strength, and to a point in which they're able to just hurl humans across the room with very little effort. They also have extreme healing abilities and, endurance. They're able to become extremely resilient. They can survive even damage, for example, multiple shotgun wounds to the head, even point blank. They have also seen to survive if they have been cut into pieces, if they have been beheaded. They can also reattach themselves, kind of reassemble into their original form. So they're extremely resilient, very hard to kill. As we know, Leviathans are, of course, they predate angels, and as such, they are much stronger than them. At least the regular shape. We don't know how they would fare against an archangel. But a single Leviathan is able to overpower angels very easily. They are immune to angels' powers, and they are also able to kill them by forcibly pushing their fists through an angel's stomach. What happens at that point is that the angel oozes black goo through their orifices, and then it dies. We also know that in Purgatory, they seem to have this ability to fly, although we haven't seen them being able to do that in the human world. So it's surprising that, even though the Leviathans are some of the oldest creatures that exist, they haven't shown to exhibit any sort of, mythical or magical powers. They have only shown to be able to fly, and that's only restricted to Purgatory, so we don't know what they're actually able to or capable of doing. As far as weaknesses go, we know that Leviathans are susceptible to borax, which of course is a substance that goes also by the name sodium borate in chemistry. They are highly susceptible to it, which is very common on household cleaning products. When that substance borax comes into contact with their skin, that results in an instant burning effect that can reduce them to a charcoal-like state. If they're exposed too long to it. It's suggested that they would eventually heal from that effect, though, so it's something that is more of it has kind of like a poison effect, so it incapacitates them briefly, but they do regenerate from it, to go back to the original form. We also know that, similar to other monsters, if you decapitate a Leviathan, removing the head disables them temporarily. That's another way to kind of keep them in check. But unless the head is kept very far away from the body, as we know, Leviathans have very high regeneration skills, so the head will just roll back to its body and reattach itself. So the combination of burning with borax along with beheading a Leviathan and separating the head from the body appears to be kind of like a somewhat permanent way to put down a Leviathan. Assume the head has no way of freeing itself and heading back to the body. And in terms of actually killing a Leviathan, we know that, of course, all the Leviathans are able to feed on other Leviathans. It's kind of a tradition on their society to kill a Leviathan by eating them as punishment for their failures. We know, for example, that the leader has a specific method of punishing a Leviathan, which is a method called bibbing. What it involves is to literally place a bib on the Leviathan and forcing it to eat itself. So at that point, nothing will be left other than the bib on the floor with, the black goo staining it. So that's one of the very few ways in which we know on how to kill a Leviathan for good, but of course it's not reliable since it requires another Leviathan to do it. Of course, it's been 8 seasons since the show started. We already know that there are other ways to kill Leviathans, but of course I'm not going to tell you because that would be a spoiler. Kind of, you know, just watch the show. If you're interested, I definitely recommend it. It's really good, as many of us fans would tell you. So, yeah, watch the show, see what it's about, and kind of get to know a little bit more about the Leviathans, as well as any other races and species that I've already talked about, on top of the other that I'm going to talk about in the future. I think I'm going to call it an episode for today. That's pretty much everything that I can talk about the Leviathans without spoiling anything, so I hope this information has been useful to you. I'm planning on continuing this series, like I said, on a weekly basis. I do intend to make this a 6-part series where I talk about all of the species. I'm going to cover everything that I can, or as much as I can at least, because there's so many species that it's probably impossible to cover and talk about all of them. But I will make my best effort, definitely. So please stay tuned for more supernatural vlogs. I'm going to continue doing these. I hope you guys are enjoying them. So thank you guys for watching. Please give me a like if you liked it. Please give me a comment if maybe there's anything that I missed, maybe something that you want me to talk about in the future. I'll be more than happy to look into those possibilities. So yeah, please give me your feedback. That's always welcome. And of course, please subscribe down below if you'd like to see more. So thank you for watching as always, and enjoy.